Discoveries that shouldn't exist are rising through earth, sand, and stone. Archaeologists are uncovering cities older than myth, timeless structures, and artifacts that shatter school textbooks. The world claims it's been studied long ago, but every new wonder unearthed proves otherwise. Gunung Padang. Hidden beneath the dense jungles of western Indonesia lies a place that changes our understanding of the beginnings of human history. Gunung Padang was long considered an ordinary hill, until researchers discovered that beneath its verdant surface lies a multi-level megalithic structure, man-made and buried beneath layers of time. The first level is a platform of enormous basalt columns, aligned with a precision difficult to explain with primitive tools. Each slab lies as if carefully adjusted to a specific rhythm of the surface. Despite the destructive effects of nature, the structure has retained its precise layout, making it one of the most astonishing archaeological sites in the region. Beneath this platform lies a second level, hidden deeper and more complex. Researchers discovered smooth walls and soil-filled corridors, indicating that this layer was created much earlier. It consists of stone blocks laid in a strict order, and appears to belong to a vanished culture that left behind only hints. The deepest level is the most controversial. Some experts believe it may be older than all known megaliths on the planet, as its structure differs from the upper layers in that the stone is more roughly worked. This suggests the existence of people skilled enough to construct massive structures long before the emergence of known civilizations. The discovery of Gunung Padang's multi-layered architecture has revolutionized our understanding of architectural evolution. While it was previously believed that the ancients built only simple structures, this site proves otherwise. A sequential construction is evident here, as if one generation built on the previous one, each new level reflecting the changing eras and rituals. The structure's alignments pose a particular mystery. Many stone lines align with the directions of celestial objects. This may indicate that Gunung Padang served as a sanctuary or observatory, where ancient inhabitants observed the movements of the heavens and linked them to natural cycles. Such precision suggests that the local people's knowledge was far more profound than is commonly believed. A significant detail remains the lack of written sources about the complex's construction. Not a single regional legend explains who created these levels or why. This silence reinforces the sense that we are confronted with a monument to a vanished people, whose traces have all but disappeared into the tropical soil. Today, Gunung Padang attracts researchers and mystery seekers from around the world. Every new analysis of the soil, rock, or structure only adds to the mystery. How did people, without sophisticated tools, manage to lift multi-ton blocks to the top of the hill? Why did they bury their levels underground instead of leaving them exposed? There are no answers yet. And this is precisely what makes Gunung Padang one of the most mysterious places on the planet, where the Earth preserves a history that humanity is only just learning to understand. Labyrinth of Teotihuacan. Hidden beneath the massive pyramid of the feathered serpent in ancient Teotihuacan lies a space that for many decades was thought to be a natural cavity. Only recent research has revealed that this is no accidental formation, but a meticulously man-made underground complex, created with such precision, attention to orientation, and symbolism that its purpose continues to generate heated debate. This labyrinth has become one of the most enigmatic discoveries of the ancient city, which already holds many secrets. The underground corridors form a multi-layered network, extending several levels into the ground. The walls here are covered with traces of processing, indicating deliberate human intervention. In some places, smooth lines reminiscent of tool marks are visible, and the very shape of the passages suggests they were carved according to a premeditated plan. Inside, paved areas, niches, stone platforms, and the remains of structures that could have been part of a ritual structure were discovered. Each detail is not randomly arranged, but seems to reflect the structure of the world, divided according to the cardinal directions, and linked to the cosmological beliefs of the inhabitants of Teotihuacan. The main mystery is the long central corridor. It extends from the entrance deep underground and aligns with the alignment of the city's key structures. This parallelism creates the sense that the labyrinth was part of a grand architectural design, where everything is subordinated to the idea of the unity of earth and sky. This is no coincidence. The entire Teotihuacan is built along a strict axis, aligned with celestial events. The underground space follows the same logic. making it a symbolic reflection of the hidden world. Unusual minerals were discovered in the inner halls. Their sheen resembles metallic dust, scattering the faint light of torches. Scientists speculate that rituals may have been performed here, with the reflection of light enhancing the mystical effect of the events. Some areas appear to have been deliberately coated with these particles, creating the illusion of a starry sky in the dark. This suggests a deep connection with the religious beliefs of a people who saw the celestial world not only above them, but also underground. The circular depressions, located in precisely defined locations, deserve special attention. They resemble stone bowls. Similar elements are found in other parts of Teotihuacan, where they are associated with rituals of thanksgiving. In the labyrinth, this detail takes on an even more mysterious connotation. Perhaps seeds, water, or precious minerals were brought here, connecting the subterranean space with the fruits of the earth. This combination emphasizes the idea of a transition between worlds, where living matter and the power of the earth unite in a single action. The shape of the corridors themselves is also intriguing. Some curves resemble the body of a serpent, which could have been a deliberate design decision by the builders. Since the pyramid at the top is dedicated to the feathered serpent, the underground passages could have embodied his path, symbolizing movement between the levels of the universe. In ancient cultures, the serpent was often considered a guide capable of traveling between worlds, making the labyrinth more than just an engineering feat, but a sacred place where every step had meaning. No less mysterious is the reason why the labyrinth was closed and hidden beneath layers of earth. Some scholars believe this was done intentionally when the city's religious system changed. Others suggest that the departure of Teotihuacan's inhabitants was sudden and the underground structures were forgotten. But regardless of the reason, their preservation is astonishing. The earth protected these spaces as if it were seeking to preserve a piece of ancient knowledge. Today, exploration of the labyrinth proceeds with caution. Every new meter reveals discoveries that raise more questions than answers. How did ancient people achieve such precision? How did they navigate the passages without sophisticated instruments? Why did they invest so much effort in a space hidden from view? And most importantly, what spiritual role did it play in the life of the city? The labyrinth beneath the pyramid remains a reminder that ancient civilizations were capable of creating not only majestic open-air structures, but also complex underground worlds. It holds the secrets of people who saw the earth, sky, and depths as a single fabric. And while scientists continue their exploration, the silence of the underground chambers speaks louder than any legend. Tombs of Saqqara. On the southern outskirts of ancient Memphis lies Saqqara, a vast necropolis where desert winds preserved the traces of decades of generations. For a long time, it seemed that this land had already revealed all its secrets, as a step pyramid, complex mastabas, and thousands of burials were discovered here. But recent discoveries have proven otherwise. Tombs still hidden in the sand have the potential to rewrite our understanding of ancient Egyptian life and culture. One such discovery occurred when archaeologists discovered a stone entrance beneath a layer of sand, almost completely hidden by fallen blocks. After clearing the area, it became clear that this was no random burial, but a carefully constructed system of corridors leading to several chambers. Reliefs in vibrant shades of ochre, red, and blue were preserved on the walls, striking in that thousands of years of sand had not destroyed their colors. The scenes depicted scenes from peaceful life: bread making, fruit harvesting, dancing, and rites of worship. The main hall attracted attention with its unusual detail. The paintings were executed as if the artist were trying to leave a message for posterity. One wall depicts a man standing before a god, possibly the patron of his family. Another depicts a ceremonial procession. In the center of the hall stood several stone sarcophagi, decorated with simple carvings without excessive luxury, but with deep respect for the deceased. This combination of simplicity and symbolism suggests that these were the resting places of high status, but not of the royal family. Two sarcophagi stood out in particular. Their lids were covered with symbols resembling a mixture of drawings and brief inscriptions, the content of which remains difficult to interpret. They do not resemble classical hieroglyphs and appear to be an early form of writing or script, used in a narrow circle. This suggests the existence of a group of priests whose knowledge was too important to be revealed to the general public. One of the side corridors led the researchers to a room containing dozens of sealed wooden boxes. When they were opened, they discovered figurines crafted with astonishing precision. Some depicted people, others animals, but all were covered in exquisite patterns. It appears these figurines served as symbolic assistants in the afterlife, performing duties that living servants performed in everyday life. This suggests a developed belief system in which every object had a purpose. Nearby, long niches filled with bundles of linen were found. Inside were ritual instruments, bronze knives, oil vessels, and stone ornaments. Their good condition indicates that the chamber was carefully sealed and remained undisturbed for a long time. It is possible that it was deliberately concealed to preserve the sacred objects. No less mysterious was the discovery of several channels beneath the floor, extending deep into the ground. They are too narrow for human movement and too elaborate to be natural. Some believe they were used to drain water during floods. Others suggest they were part of a ritual device associated with burial. Since water held great significance in Egyptian mythology, such structures could symbolize the soul's passage across the boundary of worlds. A significant feature of the excavated tomb was its relative isolation. It was located away from other major burial sites. This suggests the existence of a special group of people, perhaps guardians of ancient knowledge or highly skilled craftsmen. They were buried not alongside the kings, but in a location chosen to preserve traditions. Saqqara has once again proven itself to be one of Egypt's most enigmatic places. Every discovered corridor, every relief fragment, and every statuette reveal just how diverse life was in this civilization. Tombs, hidden beneath the sand for millennia, remind us that the history of ancient Egypt is far from complete, and each new layer reveals a world where torchlight illuminated not only stone walls, but also the path of souls journeying into eternity. The sunken city of Thonis Heracleion. On the northern coast of Egypt, where the waters of the Mediterranean appear calm and serene, lies a hidden city whose existence was long known only from ancient legends. It was called Thonis Heracleion, a once great trading center, located at the very delta of a great river. It was considered a myth until marine explorers discovered traces of ancient streets buried beneath thick water and sand. Thus, the legend transformed into one of the most impressive archaeological discoveries of modern times. The city lies at considerable depth, and the first thing that struck researchers was its scale. Hidden beneath a layer of silt were the remains of temples, statues, and canals. When underwater cameras illuminated these stone structures, it became clear that Thonis Heracleion was a wealthy center where trade routes intersected. Fragments of docks were discovered on the seabed, indicating that ships from various regions of the ancient world called here. Particular attention was drawn to the gigantic statues buried in the sand. Some of them are comparable in size to large temple statues. Despite centuries underwater, the statues retained their distinct lines, as if carefully protected by the water. Among them were images of the city's patron god and figures of rulers whose names were known only from ancient texts. Such finds demonstrate that the city held significant religious significance. Archaeologists also discovered the remains of a temple complex. Stone slabs with inscriptions detailing trade rules, rituals, and festivals were found within the walls. The texts contained information about the offerings seafarers brought upon arriving in the city. This supports the idea that Thonis Heracleion was not only an economic center but also a sanctuary where people came to seek the favor of the heavens. Even more secrets lie hidden in the houses and streets, which shed light on the daily lives of its inhabitants. Amphorae, jewelry, tools, and household items were found in various rooms, providing insight into the city's crafts, music, and domestic life. Some finds were remarkably well preserved, thanks to sedimentary layers that reliably protected them from destruction. But the greatest mystery remains the disappearance of Thonis Heracleion. Researchers suggest that the city was swallowed by the waters due to gradual coastal subsidence. The soil in the river delta is soft and unstable, and strong tremors could have caused the ground to subside, flooding the streets. Traces of cracks found underwater support this theory. Such destruction could have occurred suddenly, leaving residents with little chance of survival. A key element was the discovery of numerous shipwrecks right at the entrance to the temple complex. They lie as if people were trying to remove the items when the water began to rise. Some vessels are tilted on their sides, their cargo remaining in place, silent witnesses to the tragedy. This makes the picture clearer. The city did not disappear slowly. It was struck by a sudden natural event that upended the fate of a huge cultural center. And yet, despite the traces of destruction, the city retained its structure, Canals, roads, and squares are visible even in underwater photographs. This allows us to imagine what this place looked like, a gathering place for traders, sailors, and pilgrims. Every stone, every column tells the story of the people who lived here, built temples, celebrated holy days, and set sail on the wide waters. Thonis Herakleion has become a reminder that the sea holds many secrets. The city, immersed in silence, demonstrates how fragile great cities can be when confronted with the forces of nature. And as researchers continue to explore each new fragment, the picture of ancient life on the seabed becomes ever clearer. But much remains hidden, and Thonis Herakleion continues to attract those who seek to uncover the secrets buried beneath the water. Göbekli Tepe. Hidden in the hills of southeastern Anatolia lies a site that has transformed our understanding of the origins of human societies. Göbekli Tepe was long regarded as an ordinary hill until excavations revealed that beneath the earth lay stone circles created by people who lived long before the advent of cities, writing, and advanced crafts. These structures have forced us to reconsider how and why the first sanctuaries arose. The main feature of Göbekli Tepe are its enormous T-shaped pillars. Each weighs several tons and was installed with such precision that it creates the impression of a carefully thought-out architectural design. Animal reliefs have been preserved on the surfaces of many of the pillars: lions, bulls, snakes, and foxes. These images are executed so skillfully that every detail is visible. They convey not only the appearance of the animals, but also their habits, as if the masters had observed them for many years. The stone circles consist of outer and inner pillars. The inner ones are typically larger and particularly carefully carved. Their shape and arrangement suggest that they symbolized spiritual beings or ancestors. Perhaps rituals related to the life cycle, hunting, or transitions to another state were performed here. The absence of everyday objects suggests that people came here not to live, but to perform rituals. The biggest mystery is the age of the structures. Research shows that Göbekli Tepe was built during a period before humans cultivated grain or practiced regular agriculture. This means that hunters and gatherers collaborated to build the complex, which required considerable effort. Such cooperation indicates the presence of a strong spiritual tradition, capable of uniting large groups of people without a centralized authority. An equally important mystery is that, many generations later, the ancient inhabitants deliberately covered the complex with earth. This wasn't destruction. The circles were carefully covered with layers of soil, as if they wanted to preserve them for the future. Thanks to this, the pillars retained their shapes and patterns almost in their original form. The motives for this filling remain unknown. Perhaps it was part of a larger ritual, or a sign of a shift in traditions. Stone bowls and depressions were found within some of the circles, which could have been used to prepare drinks or mixtures associated with the rituals. Such finds suggest that the ceremonies were complex and involved multiple actions. The structure of the complex gives the impression that visitors followed a specific route, following a sequence established by generations. The surrounding area suggests that Göbekli Tepe was not the only structure of its kind. Traces of other circles, some eroded by time, were found near the hill. This creates the impression of a large, sacred region used by various tribes. The spiritual traditions here were so strong that people came from far and wide to participate in the ceremonies. The arrangement of the pillars is particularly significant. They form not just random circles, but deliberate structures, possibly linked to celestial phenomena. Some researchers suggest that the pillars are aligned with star alignments. This discussion is controversial, but the idea itself suggests that ancient people closely observed the sky and connected it with life on Earth. Göbekli Tepe is one of those discoveries that changes our understanding of the past. It demonstrates that human spiritual life developed not after the emergence of cities, but simultaneously, or even earlier. People could unite for a sacred purpose, build enormous structures, and preserve their memory. This makes Göbekli Tepe key to understanding what the world was like when humanity was just beginning to create its first symbols. Nan Madol, hidden on the eastern shore of a small Pacific island, lies a city that continues to baffle researchers. Nan Madol stands on the water, seemingly constructed from dark stone blocks carefully arranged into straight walls and platforms. Built on artificial islands in the lagoon, this city appears to have possessed knowledge difficult to explain with conventional notions of ancient technology. Nan Madol's foundations are thousands of basalt columns. These stones are shaped like elongated hexagons and appear to fit together perfectly. Their weight is considerable, raising the question, how were the inhabitants of this small island able to move such massive blocks? There are no mountains nearby from which to quarry them, and the distances across the sea require not only great effort, but also complex engineering solutions. The city consists of numerous rectangular areas separated by canals. They form a grid resembling streets. These spaces house temples, dwellings, and ritual structures. Some buildings have walls that rise several meters. Despite centuries of age, they retain their shape, as if their creators meticulously considered every detail. The most enigmatic structures are those that resembled sanctuaries. Their thick walls and the use of rare stones suggest that important ceremonies were held here. Remains of ritual-related tools and objects are often found inside. This suggests that Nan Madol was not just a city, but a seat of spiritual power, home to priests or rulers. The artificial islands on which the city stands are particularly impressive. Each is constructed from a layer of stone laid on a coral foundation. This requires considerable skill. The complex's creators not only knew how to work with stone, but also understood the properties of the sea, allowing them to construct platforms capable of supporting the weight of the massive blocks. Their knowledge enabled them to create a resilient system that has survived many natural changes. Secret passages, small rooms, and platforms, possibly used for initiation rites, have been discovered within the city. Their arrangement suggests a strictly structured society. Perhaps only a select few had access to certain parts of the city. This creates the impression that Nan Madol was a closed center of power, where people came to resolve important matters. The question of the builder's origins arises. Local legends speak of two brothers who arrived on the island and built the city using special knowledge. It is believed they used a force capable of lifting stones. This is, of course, a myth, but it highlights the unusual nature of the structures. Perhaps the islanders possessed technologies based on a systematic approach and collaboration, which enabled them to construct such heavy structures. Nan Madol is often called the Pacific Atlantis. Its location on the water, unique architecture, and unknown creators make it a ripe subject for legend. However, archaeological research shows that it is a real city where people lived, performed rituals, traded, and developed crafts. It was the center of a culture with its own laws and traditions. The main mystery of Nan Madol is the reasons for its decline. The city stood for centuries, but was then abandoned. Perhaps natural changes made it vulnerable. Changing water levels could have made life on the islands difficult. Another theory is that the governance system changed, causing the city to lose its significance. However, the exact cause remains unknown. Today, Nan Madol continues to attract explorers and travelers. It serves as a reminder that even small peoples are capable of creating unusual and complex engineering solutions. The city amidst the water stands as silent proof that our planet bears the traces of cultures about which we know too little, and every step among its stone walls reveals a new mystery. Cities of Amazonia. Beneath the dense canopy of tropical trees lies a land long considered unsuitable for large settlements. The Amazon was imagined as an endless forest inhabited only by scattered tribes, but new research has revealed that beneath the layers of vegetation lie traces of vast settlements, roads, and plazas, indicating the existence of a sophisticated culture long since lost to human memory. The discovery was made possible by aerial scanning. Using technology capable of seeing through foliage, researchers discovered geometric shapes too regular to be natural. They consisted of lines forming straight streets, circular plazas, and large squares. These structures indicate that the region's inhabitants created a network of cities connected by roads and canals. Particular attention was drawn to the elevated sites. They are surrounded by ditches and ramparts, which may have served as defenses or ritual functions. Traces of man-made mounds, created from alternating layers of soil and stone, were found nearby. Such structures require considerable effort and indicate that the ancient inhabitants possessed knowledge of construction and spatial organization. An important element were the traces of roads that stretched over long distances. They had smooth edges and indicated connections between settlements. Some roads crossed marshy areas, indicating that the builders were skilled in creating stable structures even in difficult conditions. This suggests the presence of a command system capable of directing large groups of people. The next discovery was the remains of circular structures. These may have served as meeting places where residents discussed important matters. High-quality ceramic fragments and jewelry were found inside these structures, indicating a sophisticated craft industry. People knew how to fire clay, create vessels, and decorate them with patterns. Traces of gardens and plantations present a particular mystery. Researchers have discovered plots of land where various plants were grown. Their location suggests a farming system capable of supporting a large population. Some plots were improved with natural fertilizers, indicating knowledge of soil properties. This suggests that the ancient inhabitants led a lifestyle based not only on hunting and gathering, but also on regular farming. It is believed that the inhabitants created so-called black soil. It contains organic matter that makes the soil fertile. This explains how people managed to grow large crops in tropical conditions. Such finds indicate that the Amazonian culture possessed a profound understanding of nature, which was lost over time. The disappearance of these cities remains a mystery. Researchers speculate that the settlements may have suffered from a sudden climate change. Perhaps resource depletion or invasion from other regions led to their decline. However, there is no definitive evidence, and each new layer of soil reveals new questions. Why did people abandon these places? What happened to a culture that knew how to build roads, cultivate fertile soil, and organize large settlements? Today, Amazonian cities are becoming one of the most significant discoveries. They demonstrate that the ancient world was far more diverse than previously thought. People were able to adapt to challenging conditions and create resilient systems. Amazonian cities are not just underground ruins, but also a reminder that human history is full of unknown chapters. Copper scrolls of Qumran. In the Dead Sea area, where the dry air seems to preserve history, an object was once discovered that immediately stood out among the other Qumran manuscripts. This scroll was neither parchment nor leather. It was made of pure copper. This alone indicated that its authors sought to preserve the information not just for centuries, but for millennia. Thus emerged the most enigmatic document hidden in the Qumran caves, the Copper Scrolls, which to this day continue to evoke debate among historians, archaeologists, and those seeking traces of the lost treasures of the ancient world. The scroll was discovered in the early 1950s in a cave isolated from the others, hinting at the document's special status. It lay coiled in a clay vessel, so oxidized that attempting to unroll it would have destroyed the text. To preserve the inscriptions, researchers decided to saw the scroll into thin strips. This revealed the lines engraved in the metal and became the first step toward understanding its contents. The scroll turned out to be a list, but not just a list of objects or events, but a detailed description of secret places where vast hordes of valuables were once hidden. Some lines mention tons of gold, silver, and sacred ritual objects. The numbers were so large that some experts considered them exaggerations or symbolic language. However, the very existence of such a document led to a new wave of interest in Qumran and its inhabitants. The scroll's contents differ from all other manuscripts found in the caves. Most texts contain religious rules, prophecies, or commentaries on sacred books. The Copper Scroll, however, is a practical description, as if written for those who were tasked with hiding or returning these treasures. It lists the locations with astonishing precision, the depth of the niches, the number of vessels, their orientation relative to the hills and ravines. Such attention to detail suggests that the text was compiled by people seeking to preserve knowledge of these hiding places for those who would come later. One of the scroll's mysteries is the origin of the riches described. Legend suggests that these treasures may have belonged to a temple destroyed during the upheavals. Perhaps the scroll was created by priests seeking to preserve the sanctuary's property. Another theory suggests that it contains the valuables of several communities who decided to pool their resources during a difficult time. In any case, the volumes described in the scroll are impressive. It describes not just individual objects, but entire accumulations hidden in various parts of the Judean desert. Each location mentioned in the text is carefully hidden within nature. References to cliffs, dry riverbeds, and narrow gorges are repeated again and again. These descriptions create the feeling of a map, but not just any map, but a guide for the initiated. It's important to note that many of the locations have changed over time, so pinpointing all of the mentioned points is impossible. The desert can change shape over centuries, and water and wind erase traces. Thus, even with a description, the path to the treasure remains hidden. Another important feature of the scroll is its text style. It is written in a distinct dialect, close to the language of the ancient community living nearby. This supports the theory that the scroll was created by people associated with a local religious movement. They adhered to strict rules and kept knowledge within their community. This behavior explains why the scroll ended up in a separate cave. Perhaps they wanted to protect it from prying eyes. Some researchers believe the text contains a hidden meaning. The numbers and instructions could symbolize spiritual knowledge rather than material wealth. This interpretation is based on the fact that ancient communities often used figurative meaning in their texts. However, the document's material itself speaks against this theory. Copper is an expensive resource, and creating the scroll required considerable labor. Such a durable material was typically chosen for information of exceptional literal value. The search for the treasures described in the scroll has been ongoing for many years. However, not a single confirmed cache has been discovered. The riches may have been moved or perhaps looted in ancient times. It is believed that some of the treasures are located in areas difficult to access due to natural conditions. Some caches may have sunk as a result of landslides or been buried under sedimentary layers. Therefore, the search continues, although technological demands are increasing. The copper scroll itself remains a unique document, opening a window into a world where religion, power, and wealth were closely intertwined. It recalls a time when people sought to preserve their heritage by hiding it in inaccessible places. The scroll reveals not only the community's values, but also its fears. The fear of losing knowledge, of losing sacred objects, of forgetting one's own history. This is precisely what makes it so significant for researchers. Today, the scroll is being studied using new methods. Researchers are analyzing the metal, the writing, and the structure of the text. Each new discovery helps us understand who the people who created this document were and why they sought to preserve their memory in such an unusual way. And although the answers are still incomplete, one thing is clear. The Qumran copper scroll remains one of the most enigmatic testimonies from the ancient world. San Sindui. Hidden away in Sichuan province, amid fertile plains and tranquil rivers, lay a civilization long unknown. It left behind mysterious masks, enormous statues, strange altars, and objects unlike anything created by neighboring peoples. This site, known as Sanxing Dui, is an archaeological complex that has become one of the most mysterious discoveries of the last century and forced a rethinking of our understanding of ancient China. The first finds were discovered by chance when workers were digging a ditch and stumbled upon a pit filled with bronze artifacts. The locals had no idea that beneath their feet lay the remains of a vanished culture. Archaeologists who arrived here discovered massive masks with enormous eyes, crafted so expressively, as if the artisans wanted to emphasize their spiritual power. These masks are unlike traditional images from other regions of the country. They seem to belong to beings standing above the people. One of the main discoveries was 2 sacrificial pits. They contained bronze statues, golden masks, jade objects, and strange structures reminiscent of ancient altars. All the objects were carefully broken or bent, suggesting a ritual associated with sacrifice. This destruction of the objects may have had a symbolic meaning. Before departing to the next world, they shed their earthly form in order to acquire a new one. The gigantic bronze figures made a particularly impressive impression. One of them reaches the height of an adult, while another depicts a figure standing on outstretched legs, holding an object. The technique used to create these statues is unlike anything previously discovered, demonstrating a sophisticated metallurgy and an unusually high level of bronze workmanship. The details of the figures, the hands, face, and jewelry, are executed with a delicacy reminiscent of the work of later cultures. Among the finds are also mysterious trees. They are made of bronze and have twisting branches which adorn sacred structures. These trees may have symbolized the connection between earth and heaven, emphasizing the religious nature of the complex. The branches sometimes feature figures of creatures that could have been spirits or intermediaries between worlds. This suggests a complex mythology that remains obscure to modern humans. Sanxing Dui is also unique in that it has almost no connection with neighboring cultures. Its materials, rituals, and art indicate an independent development. This makes it unique in the country's history. Where this people came from and where they disappeared remains a mystery. After a certain period, traces of the culture disappear, as if its creators abandoned the place or were confronted by a natural disaster. Some researchers believe the river's course may have changed dramatically, leading to the flooding or destruction of the settlement. Another theory suggests migration. Perhaps the inhabitants of San Sin Dui migrated to another area, where their traditions blended with local customs. However, evidence for these theories is still insufficient, and the history of the civilization remains incomplete. The mystery is heightened by bronze masks with unusual faces. Large eyes, a straight nose, wide ears, and sharp lines create an image that appears not only symbolic, but also alien. Some mystery enthusiasts suggest that the images are inspired by legendary beings who came from the sky or appeared in ancient visions. These are, of course, just legends, but they underscore the impression these works of art create. Among the finds were also gold masks. They are decorated with patterns and finely crafted. Gold was a rare material, indicating the high status of those participating in the rituals. Perhaps the masks were worn not by ordinary citizens, but by priests or rulers. Their role in the ceremonies could have been significant, and the masks themselves served as a symbol of power and connection to the spirit world. Sanxing Dui became the key to understanding that ancient China was not a unified cultural space. It was home to groups of people developing their own traditions. Their art, metallurgy, and rituals demonstrate a high level of development and the ability to create complex images that astonish their contemporaries. Today, excavations continue. Every new fragment of bronze, every piece of jade or gold reveals another page of history. However, many mysteries remain. Who created this complex? Why was it abandoned? What did the masks and figures mean? And will the settlement where these masters lived ever be found? Sanxin Dui reminds us that the history of human cultures is far more complex than it seems. Traces of peoples whose knowledge and traditions have vanished, but left their mark in stone and metal, may be hidden among the plains and mountains. And every new discovery here makes us reflect on how many pages of the past remain to be uncovered. Derinkuya underground levels. Hidden in the heart of Anatolia, beneath gentle hills and quiet pastures, lies a city that seems to have been created not by humans, but by the earth itself. Derinkuyu is one of the most impressive underground structures in the world. Its multi-level tunnels, chambers, and vaults extend so deep that even modern explorers don't fully understand all the passages. This place makes you wonder what forces and knowledge enabled ancient people to create an entire underground world. The first levels of Derinkuyu are quite spacious. Wide corridors connect rooms where food, tools, and household items were once stored. The soft stone made it easy to carve the rooms, yet retained their shape. Here are kitchens, wine cellars, and areas where residents rested. The silence in these rooms reminds us that life once flourished underground. People came here to hide from raids or to wait out dangerous times. Deeper, the levels begin to reveal surprising levels of thoughtfulness. One of them contains stables. Animals were kept underground to make them difficult to detect. There's ample space to house and feed them. This suggests that underground life was thriving, and the city served as a refuge not only for people, but also for their livelihoods. Even lower down are schools and meeting rooms. These were vaulted halls where residents could discuss important matters. Their shape allowed for sound amplification, allowing people to hear each other even from a distance. This speaks to their knowledge of acoustics. Ancient builders knew how to create spaces where voices propagated evenly and clearly, making meetings effective. The ventilation system is particularly noteworthy. Derinkuyu has shafts that rise to a considerable height and bring air to the surface. They are positioned so that fresh air circulates at all levels. Even on the lowest floors, breathing is easy. This architectural design is astounding. Without modern instruments, the city's creators were able to calculate the airflow paths and create a system that has lasted for centuries. Ritual chambers were also discovered deep below. Their walls are decorated with niches that could have once held lamps or sacred objects. This suggests that the inhabitants not only hid here, but also lived a full cultural life. They performed rituals, observed traditions, and maintained spiritual practices. The underground space was not just a refuge, but an extension of their world. The main mystery is the city's size. It could accommodate thousands of people. Creating such a space required a tremendous amount of labor and coordination. This suggests that the ancient community was organized and knowledgeable about construction. However, the question remains, why did they choose the underground world instead of the surface? There are many possibilities. climate threats, enemy raids, or religious reasons. But the definitive answer remains unknown. Some corridors leading to the lower floors are particularly narrow. These could have served as traps or defenses. In times of danger, residents sealed the entrances with stone doors that rotated in place. Moving such a slab requires considerable force, but once inside, residents could easily manipulate it. This made the city impregnable and protected those sheltering in its depths. The underground levels also house water storage. The city has wells that go deep, providing clean water for all residents. Some levels are separated from the surface, protecting the springs from contamination. This is further evidence of the skill of the builders, who understood the importance of water for underground life. Of particular interest is the network of tunnels connecting Derinkuyu with other underground complexes. According to one theory, these passages could have stretched for many kilometers. They may have served as escape routes or secret passages to neighboring settlements. This suggests that the region's inhabitants lived communally and maintained connections between their cities. Despite exploring many levels, many rooms remain closed. Some tunnels have collapsed and are inaccessible. This creates the feeling that much more remains hidden underground. Every new meter could lead to the discovery of a chamber where people lived, craftsmen worked, or rituals were performed. Derinkuyu is more than just an underground city. It's a testament to humanity's desire to survive in challenging conditions. The people here created a world in which to live, defend themselves, and preserve traditions. Their artistry is astounding and makes one reflect on the depth of their desire to preserve their community. Today, the underground levels continue to be explored. New methods allow us to penetrate these closed spaces without destroying them, but much remains a mystery. Why did the ancient inhabitants choose the depths? What events led them underground? And what else does this amazing city hide? There are no answers yet, but each new study brings us closer to understanding the subterranean history of Derinkuyu. Rock Lake. In the middle of the state, amid tranquil hills and small villages, lies a lake that at first glance appears to be an ordinary body of water. Its surface is smooth, and its banks are overgrown with reeds and pine trees. But beneath the water lies one of the region's most enigmatic discoveries, structures reminiscent of ancient platforms and pyramidal structures, the existence of which was long considered a legend. Rock Lake has become a place where history seems to have hidden in silence, waiting to be discovered. The first stories of strange underwater shapes came from local fishermen. They noticed shadows resembling smooth walls when the sun rose or set at a certain angle. But for a long time, these stories attracted no attention. It was only in the 20th century that researchers, using new underwater exploration techniques, confirmed that human-made structures did indeed exist on the lakebed. They consist of stone blocks laid in regular lines, resembling the foundations of buildings. The shape of some of the platforms attracted particular attention. They have triangular outlines, as if their creators intended them to be symbolic. Such structures are found in various cultures around the world, but their appearance in the central northern region raises questions. Who could have built them? What culture lived here long before the establishment of known settlements? The lake conceals answers, but the hints raise questions about forgotten peoples. Researchers also discovered areas where stone blocks were arranged in layers. This suggests that the builders created stable platforms to support the weight of the superstructures. These sites may have housed structures for ceremonies, observation, or gatherings. If the lake was considered the center of an ancient settlement, these platforms could have served as the foundations of significant buildings associated with spiritual life. Among the finds are also long stone lines. They extend at an angle, resembling roads or walls. Some of them run parallel to each other, suggesting a planned structure. This arrangement cannot be explained by natural processes. It points to the deliberate creation of a space where each line had its own meaning. These roads may have led to areas where rituals related to water, which held special significance in ancient cultures, took place. There are theories that the lake was once not so deep. The land may have subsided or changed due to natural processes. The structures may have stood on dry land, and people used them in their daily lives. Over time, the water submerged these structures, hiding them beneath the surface and creating the impression of a vanished city. This hypothesis explains why some stone blocks appear intact and undamaged. Research has shown that the stone used in the structures is not found nearby. This means that people transported it from other locations. Such labor requires organization and skill. the ancient inhabitants possessed knowledge of construction and were able to move large blocks using the methods available to them. This suggests that the culture that built these structures was more advanced than is commonly believed. The purpose of the pyramidal structures remains a mystery. Some believe they were used for astronomical observations. Their alignments may have coincided with the positions of celestial bodies. This explains why the triangular platforms were positioned as they were. Ancient residents may have come here to observe the movements of the sun or moon, associating these phenomena with spiritual traditions. However, another theory suggests that the platforms were part of defensive fortifications. If the lake's water level was once lower, these stone lines could have served as walls or barricades. Their placement could have protected the settlement from external threats. This theory explains the rectilinear shape of some structures, which resemble bastions. Underwater research revealed that some stone blocks bear traces of processing. They are leveled and laid neatly. This indicates the presence of tools used by builders to create smooth surfaces. Despite the lack of written sources, the structures themselves indicate a sophisticated culture skilled in working with stone. Today, Rock Lake attracts researchers, travelers, and those searching for traces of ancient civilizations. Its dark waters conceal many secrets that are slowly being revealed. Each new dive yields fragments that help us piece together a picture of the past. But much remains buried beneath the silt, and the search continues. The main mystery is the disappearance of those who created these structures. Why did they abandon the site where their structures once stood? There are many possible reasons: climate change, sudden natural events, or the exodus of residents to other areas. But so far there's insufficient evidence, and the lake continues to hold its secrets. Rock Lake reminds us that traces of forgotten worlds can be hidden beneath the water. Its stone lines and platforms become a bridge to the past, where people built, created, and left traces that outlasted their time. And while exploration continues, the lake remains one of the most mysterious places where history awaits discovery. Mummies of Atacama, hidden in one of the world's driest deserts, where the sun scorches the earth and the wind barely stirs dust, lies a place that has astonished archaeologists with its extraordinary state of preservation. Here, among sandy slopes and rocky outcrops, mummies are found that look as if they were created not by natural conditions, but by a special ritual. The Atacama is home to one of the most enigmatic mummification traditions, long unknown. The first discoveries astonished the researchers. The bodies weren't simply desiccated, they preserved details that would have disappeared within decades in other regions. In the desert, where moisture is almost non-existent, natural mummification occurs naturally. This created ideal conditions for preserving remains that had lain underground for hundreds and even thousands of years. But among these mummies, there are those created by human hands, and they are especially valuable. One of the most ancient groups are the mummies of a culture that lived on the coast. They employed complex methods of body preparation. First, the body was cleaned, removing the viscera, then filled with natural materials to maintain its shape. After this, the skin was covered with a colorful mixture of clay and minerals. Such attention to detail speaks of a developed spiritual tradition where caring for the dead was an important part of the culture. These mummies are considered to be among the oldest artificial mummies in the world. Among the finds are also natural mummies. They were created by the desert itself. Thanks to the dry climate, the bodies preserved their hair, skin, and even clothing. In some places, remains were found that had lain exposed but not decomposed. This speaks to the harsh desert conditions, where warmth and a lack of moisture allow organic matter to survive. Such finds help us understand the daily lives of ancient people, their clothing, jewelry, and habits. Researchers were particularly struck by the mummies of children. They were found in small chambers or shelters. The children were wrapped in woven garments with objects that could have symbolic meaning lying nearby. Such burials demonstrate that rituals were important to all members of society. Despite the harsh climate, people tried to maintain a connection with the dead, expressing respect through rituals. The purpose of some of the mummies remains a mystery. They had unusual shapes. Some had masks applied to their faces, completely obscuring their features. This may have been connected to the spirits or deities worshipped by the local inhabitants. The masks may have been used to conceal the identity of the deceased and allow them to pass on to the next world. This highlights the complexity of the spiritual life of the ancient desert dwellers. Traces of disease have become an important element of the research. Some mummies retain signs of injuries, infections, or congenital abnormalities. This helps us understand how people lived, what illnesses they suffered, and what challenges they faced. For example, traces of intense stress found indicate heavy physical labor associated with resource extraction in harsh conditions. Such information complements the picture of the past and helps us see history through the eyes of those who lived in the desert. The diversity of mummification methods is also intriguing. Some mummies were created using simple techniques, such as leaving the body to dry in the sun. Others were carefully crafted. People used fabric, clay, paint, and even hair to give the body a lifelike appearance. This speaks to the differences between the groups living in the region. Each community had its own traditions, reflecting their beliefs about life and death. One of the reasons people may have created mummies was the belief that the dead continued to exist. They were perhaps considered conduits between worlds. Such beliefs are not unique. They can be found in many cultures. But in the Atacama, this view was expressed through specific rituals that utilized readily available materials and skills. This makes the region's mummies unique testaments to the spiritual life of people who lived thousands of years ago. Today, the Atacama mummies are being carefully studied. They help us understand not only rituals, but also the climate. Because the desert changes very slowly, the finds reveal what the region was like in the past. This is important for understanding how ancient inhabitants adapted to the harsh conditions. The bodies, preserved by nature, are like letters from the past, telling of a life full of struggle and respect for tradition. Despite research, many mysteries remain unsolved. Why do some of the mummies look so unusual? What rituals accompany their creation? Why were some children buried separately from adults? Perhaps the answers are hidden in the sand or in as yet undiscovered shelters. The desert holds its secrets, revealing them only partially. The Atacama mummies are among the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries. They remind us that even in the harshest places, people create traditions that outlast their time. The desert preserves their memory and tells the story of a people who lived on the edge of possibility. Underground chambers of the Sphinx. On the plateau where majestic pyramids rise above the desert stands one of the most recognizable symbols of the ancient world, a colossal stone guardian with the body of a lion and the face of a ruler. The Sphinx on the Giza Plateau has long attracted the attention of researchers, but the real mysteries lie not on the surface, but beneath its massive frame. At depths inaccessible to the naked eye lie chambers, tunnels, and voids that for many years remained the stuff of legend. The first mentions of underground spaces date back to ancient times. Travelers spoke of passages leading beneath the Sphinx, but for a long time, no evidence was found. Only modern research methods have revealed what had been concealed by centuries of silence. Indeed, voids have been discovered beneath the massive statue. They take the form of rooms and corridors, and their location raises many questions. One of the most interesting elements is the rectangular chamber located closer to the forepaws. Its shape and size indicate human intervention. It may have served as part of a ritual complex. Some researchers believe it may have been used to store objects associated with worship. This explains the chamber's precise shape and orientation. It is positioned to fit the overall layout of the complex, where every detail has symbolic significance. Another void was found beneath the body. It is elongated and runs along the axis of the statue. Its purpose remains a mystery. It may have been a technical space used during construction. However, another theory suggests it is part of a secret passage leading further on, to a temple or underground sanctuary. Such a structure could have been associated with ancient rituals that utilize passages between the surface and the underworld. Some studies have shown that there are deep sand-filled shafts beneath the Sphinx. Their shape is unlike that of natural cavities. They have smooth walls and straight lines, suggesting the intervention of human builders. These shafts may have served for ventilation or storage. However, the lack of direct traces makes their precise purpose difficult to determine. Of particular interest is a possible passageway connecting the Sphinx to nearby temples. Some maps mention a line running from the base of the statue to the massive blocks of a nearby complex. If this connection existed, it could have served as part of a ritual route. People could have traveled from the temple to the Sphinx using underground passages. Such a route would have enhanced the symbolic significance of the complexes and emphasized the connection between the human and spiritual worlds. The Sphinx is also associated with legends of hidden knowledge. Some ancient texts mention a repository where documents or objects related to history may have been hidden. Although there is no direct evidence for this theory, the idea itself is intriguing. The Giza Plateau has always been a center of knowledge related to the movement of the stars, the Earth, and traditions. The underground chambers could have served as storage areas for objects considered valuable by those who built the complex. It's important to note that research beneath the Sphinx continues. Technology allows for exploration without destroying the stone structures. Each new layer of information helps refine the subterranean map. However, many areas remain inaccessible due to the risk of damaging the statue. Therefore, part of the space remains hidden. Also of interest is the fact that the Sphinx stands on a carved section of rock. This means that the builders worked not only on the statue, but also on shaping the surrounding space. This strengthens the theory that the underground chambers were part of a larger design. They could have created a space where rituals associated with both earth and sky took place simultaneously. Some voids are shaped like natural formations. Perhaps the builders used existing cracks and depressions, adapting them to their own purposes. This saved time and effort. But other voids are so smooth that they cannot be explained by natural processes. They appear to be the product of deliberate work, executed with astonishing precision. The underground chambers beneath the Sphinx remain one of the greatest mysteries. Their existence has been confirmed by research, but their purpose remains unknown. Perhaps they were secret ritual chambers, warehouses, or storage areas. Or perhaps they served as connecting elements between different parts of the complex. Each possibility is valid, but there is no definitive answer. The Sphinx stands in its place, as it did centuries ago. It faces east and greets the sun, remaining silent about what lies beneath. Its subterranean chambers are a reminder that ancient builders created not only visible structures but also hidden spaces. And while research continues, the Sphinx remains the key to mysteries that are only partially revealed to the world. Stone circles of Namibia. On the outskirts of the South African deserts, where the landscape seems an endless canvas of sand, rocks, and dry shrubs, lie mysterious structures that have long remained unnoticed. The stone circles of Namibia are hundreds of circles formed from small boulders. They span a vast area and appear as if an ancient people left a pattern on the earth, the meaning of which has been lost. These circles vary in size. Some are barely noticeable and resemble small fences, while others reach tens of meters in diameter. The stones are laid evenly, suggesting human activity. Natural processes usually create chaotic shapes, but here, intentional alignment is evident. Despite the simplicity of their design, the circles give the impression of a carefully thought-out plan that followed specific rules. The main mystery of these circles is their purpose. Some researchers suggest they may have served as dwellings. The stones could have supported the foundations of structures made of lightweight materials that disappeared over time. This theory is supported by the location of some circles near water sources. Such locations are convenient for settlements. However, the lack of clear evidence of residential objects casts doubt on the circle's use in everyday life. It is believed that the circles were used to house livestock. Stone enclosures could have prevented the animals from escaping. However, this method requires constant maintenance and human presence. The Namibian circles are positioned in such a way that their creators did not permanently reside in the area. Therefore, the idea of livestock enclosures remains unlikely. If animals were kept here, there should have been evidence of a long-term human presence. Other researchers see the circles as sacred sites. They may have been used for rituals. Stone circles are found in various cultures around the world, and everywhere they have symbolic significance. Perhaps these circles were used for rituals related to the changing seasons, hunting, or the veneration of spirits. The position of the circles relative to the surrounding landscape sometimes suggests a connection with celestial phenomena. For example, some circles are oriented so that the sun rises opposite their entrances at certain times of the year. The shape of some of the circles is intriguing. They consist of several concentric lines. This structure suggests a more complex purpose. These circles may have served as gathering places. The inner lines may have separated participants or marked different stages of the ceremony. This design is not found in simple settlements and suggests the presence of a stable cultural tradition. Some researchers note that the circles may be part of an ancient navigation system. In regions without clear landmarks, stone structures could have aided travelers. The circles could have marked a route or served as a guide. However, this theory requires consistency between the circles, and so far, few such signs have been found. A more complex theory suggests that the circles were part of a larger system related to resource management. In regions with limited water, people may have created structures that helped retain moisture or identified areas where the soil retained more moisture. This is supported by the location of some circles near dry riverbeds. Perhaps the circles served as markers for communities that visited the area during specific seasons. However, the most likely explanation remains a spiritual purpose. In Namibia, many indigenous peoples perceived the circle as a symbol of eternity and a connection between worlds. The creation of stone circles may have been a way to mark a sacred space where people gathered, performed rituals, and strengthened their connection with nature. Circles may have served as a symbol of unity and belonging. The stone circles of Namibia also have archaeological significance. They demonstrate that people inhabited the area much earlier than previously thought. Their location and number indicate organized activity. Despite the lack of written sources, the circles reveal the cultural life and social structure of ancient communities. This makes them an important part of the study of humans in arid regions. Today, stone circles are being studied using new technologies. Aerial surveys allow us to visualize their distribution over a large area, opening up the possibility of understanding their interconnectedness. But there's no definitive solution yet. Each discovery only adds to the picture, yet questions remain. Why were the circles created? What rituals were performed here? What people left these traces? The answers may be hidden in the soil or in undiscovered artifacts, but it's already clear that Namibia's stone circles are more than just traces of the past. They serve as a reminder that ancient people created symbols that have endured through the ages. And these circles reflect the connection between humans and nature, which people attempted to preserve in the harsh desert environment. Ubar, Atlantis of the Sands. In the depths of the vast desert, where dunes shift in the wind and conceal the traces of past eras, legends long circulated of a great city that vanished without a trace. Local peoples called it Iram, the city of pillars, or Ubar. Legend spoke of a place where caravans converged, where the riches of the east and west were exchanged in the shadow of tall towers. However, many considered this city a fiction. Only research in recent decades has proven that the ruins of a vast ancient city are indeed hidden beneath the sand. The discovery began with a study of old caravan routes. Researchers noticed that some routes curved sharply, as if they were skirting a large area. Satellite images revealed regular shapes beneath the sand, circles, straight lines, and the remains of walls. This became the first evidence that the legends were not without reality. Hidden beneath the sand was an ancient city, lost due to natural changes. Ubar's main mystery is its architecture. The remains of massive towers were discovered at the excavation site. Built of dense stone and shaped like fortifications, this suggests the city was an important trading center, likely visited by merchants, travelers, and artisans. The towers served as both a defense and a symbol of wealth. Their height impressed those who first saw the city. Underground spaces were especially important. Deep wells have been discovered beneath the city. They extend to great depths and allowed residents to obtain water in the desert. This explains how Ubar could survive in such a harsh climate. Access to water made the city viable, and its location convenient for trade. Many routes intersected here, making Ubar a hub. But the main mystery is the city's disappearance. According to one theory, the underground chambers were so vast that a cave-in occurred. The upper levels collapsed and the city sank underground. The desert buried its remains. Traces of cracks in the stone confirmed that the ground here was unstable. Such a collapse could have occurred suddenly and destroyed the city in a short time. This explains why the inhabitants abandoned it so quickly. There's another theory. It suggests the climate in the region changed. The water began to sink deeper. Without springs, residents couldn't sustain life. They were forced to leave, and the city gradually fell into ruin. Wind-blown sand obscured the walls, squares, and streets. Only traces on satellite images revealed what had been erased by time. Ubar's role in the region's cultural life is also of interest. Some legends say the city was a meeting place for different cultures, exchanging not only goods but also knowledge. Ubar may have been a cultural center that played an important role in the region's development. Finds from excavations indicate crafts, trade, and developed traditions. Artifacts found included jewelry, tools, and pottery remnants. They provide insight into everyday life. People engaged in crafts, raised livestock, and traded. Traces of dwellings were discovered at the excavation site. They were built of stone and had several rooms. This suggests a developed society where people lived in conditions requiring constant adaptation to the desert. Ubar also has spiritual significance. Legends say the city was connected to ancient beliefs. It may have housed sacred sites where rituals were performed. Some structures resemble ritual grounds. They are located close to towers, suggesting a combination of power and religion. This social structure is characteristic of many ancient cultures. Today, Ubar continues to amaze. It is being discovered gradually, layer by layer. The desert reveals its secrets slowly. Each new part of the city uncovered by explorers becomes a key to understanding how people lived in conditions where every resource had to be extracted with effort. But much remains hidden. Vast expanses of land beneath the sand remain unexplored. The main mystery of Ubar is why it disappeared so quickly. It could have been the result of a natural disaster or a prolonged climate change. Perhaps the city ceased to be an important trading center. But legends say its disappearance was sudden, and this suddenness makes the city part of the region's mythological heritage. Ubar has become a reminder that the desert preserves the traces of great cultures. Its remains speak of the strength of the people who built their cities at the very limits of possibility. And although time has erased the traces of streets, towers, and squares, the memory of the city lives on in the sand. It is an Atlantis of the sands which continues to be sought and explored. Temple of Poseidon on Samos. On this verdant island surrounded by the calm waters of the eastern Mediterranean, archaeologists had long found fragments of ancient buildings that didn't fit together. Wall foundations, column fragments, frieze fragments, and stone slabs were found in various places, but how they all fit together was unclear. Only recent excavations revealed that the island once harbored one of the most significant sanctuaries of antiquity, the Temple of Poseidon, whose existence had long been a subject of legend. This discovery upended our understanding of Samos's religious role and underscored the island's significance for ancient seafarers. The first hint of a large temple's existence emerged during exploration of the coastal area. Under a layer of earth, not far from the ancient harbor, massive foundations made of enormous stone blocks were discovered. Initially, they were mistaken for part of a fortification. However, further excavations revealed that the blocks were aligned along a precise axis, and fragments of columns, constructed in a style typical of large sanctuaries, were discovered around them. This led researchers to wonder, could a temple dedicated to the god of the sea be hidden here? The answer came when the first decorative elements were discovered. Several slabs bore images of waves, sea creatures, and storm spirals, executed with particular finesse. This style was typically used to decorate sanctuaries associated with sea deities. Important confirmation came with the discovery of a fragment of an inscription mentioning Poseidon. The slab was heavily damaged, but the surviving letters left little doubt. The temple did indeed exist. The next stage of excavations revealed a huge rectangular foundation. Its size indicated that the temple was large and significant. The central part of the sanctuary was elevated, overlooking the sea. This location was no accident. Poseidon was considered the patron of sailors, and a temple on an elevated platform was a symbol of protection. People setting out on a voyage might bring offerings or perform rituals to gain the god's favor. The researchers were particularly surprised by the number of marine-related objects found. Bronze fish figurines, small ship models, and anchor-like ornaments were found here. These objects had ritual significance. They were brought to the temple as a symbol of prayer for calm seas or gratitude for a successful voyage. Such a large number of offerings suggests that the temple was an important center for seafarers who passed through the waters of this region. The sanctuary's layout is no less interesting. The temple had several successive halls. The first hall served as a meeting place for travelers and priests. The next hall was decorated with columns and friezes. Traces of bright colors were found on the walls. Despite the passage of centuries, some shades have survived. This suggests that the temple was decorated with great care. Rituals here were an important part of island life. The main sanctuary was located in the central part. A large statue of Poseidon, apparently made of bronze, stood here. Although the statue itself has not survived, its fragments, parts of the base, fragments of the stand, and some decorative elements allow us to imagine its grandeur. Judging by the traces of the fastenings, the statue was massive and could have depicted the god with a trident. This depiction is typical of ancient sanctuaries dedicated to Poseidon. The water supply system was also important. The temple was connected to natural springs, and water played a major role in rituals. Archaeologists have found stone channels that directed water to the altars. This may have been connected to purification rites. Seafarers underwent ritual ablutions before a voyage. This tradition reinforces the connection between the sea and the temple. But one of the greatest mysteries is the reason for the temple's disappearance. For a long time, it was believed that it was destroyed by an earthquake. The region was frequently subject to tremors, and the signs of destruction could have been related. However, recent research points to gradual abandonment. Perhaps trade routes shifted, the island lost its strategic importance, and the temple ceased to be an important center. Over time, it was abandoned, and the stones were used to construct new buildings. The temple's remains also show signs of fire. In some places, the stones are covered in soot. This suggests that one of the final chapters of the sanctuary's history involved destruction. The temple may have suffered during military action. The region experienced numerous conflicts, and the sanctuary could have fallen victim to one of these clashes. This episode remains a mystery, but the soot and debris suggest a sudden collapse that ended the temple's era. The underground chambers discovered are particularly noteworthy. They are located beneath the foundation. Some believe these rooms were used to store sacred objects. Remains of vessels and fragments of metal objects were found inside. This may be related to rituals performed by the priests. The underground rooms served as a secret place for storing important items associated with the cult of Poseidon. Today, the Temple of Poseidon on Samos is being studied by specialists from various fields. Archaeologists continue to clear the foundations, reconstruct the layout, and study the discovered objects. Historians are analyzing the inscriptions to understand the temple's role, and geologists are studying the influence of natural factors on the destruction of the complex. Each new fragment yields information that helps reconstruct the past. The Temple of Poseidon was not only an archaeological discovery, but also a symbol of the connection between people and the sea. It was a place where travelers left gifts, asked for protection, and believed in the power of the god, who could grant or take away good fortune. The temple served as a reminder that the sea was not only a path, but also a force demanding respect. And today, when archaeologists uncover stones hidden for centuries, they seem to be returning to the world a piece of history long buried: Phoenician ships of the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea has always been a route for the movement of goods, ideas, and people. But among all the ancient peoples, it was the Phoenicians who became legendary seafarers, their ships crossing vast distances, connecting coastlines, cultures, and civilizations. For a long time, archaeologists found only rare shipwrecks, preventing a full understanding of the scale of Phoenician maritime trade. This changed when shipwrecks were discovered beneath the water, so well preserved that it seemed they had been biding their time. These finds became one of the most important archaeological discoveries in the region and opened a new chapter in the study of maritime history. The first vessel was found off the coast of a small bay. Its hull was covered in silt, but almost completely preserved. The ship's length was astonishing. It was significantly larger than was thought possible for the Phoenicians. Thin wooden planks, joined with intricate locks, indicated the high skill of the shipbuilders. Even after prolonged submersion, the wood retained its structure, allowing researchers to reconstruct the vessel's shape. The hull's ribs, crafted with precise geometry, were particularly impressive. Remnants of ropes, anchors, and tools were found nearby, providing insight into everyday life on board. Sailors used metal tools to repair and replace parts of the vessel. Some tools were made of bronze, suggesting the presence of a developed craft industry on the shores from which the ships departed. Fishing gear and drinking water containers were also found on the vessel. Their elaborate design and special craftsmanship suggest that voyages could last for weeks. But the main discovery was the amphorae. Dozens of the vessels lay in the hold. Some of them contained traces of oil, wine, and resins, which the Phoenicians transported between regions. The amphorae had a unique shape, convenient for storage. They were designed to easily stack in rows and avoid damage during shipping. The contents of the amphorae revealed trade connections. Oil could have come from one end of the sea, and resins from the other. This confirmed that the Phoenicians operated a complex exchange network. Another ship was found carrying a cargo of metal ingots. Their standard shape suggests a developed trading system. The ingots could have been used as a medium of exchange. The Phoenicians likely transported them to cities, where they exchanged them for fabrics, grain, and other goods. Metal was an important resource, and its presence in large quantities suggests the wealth of the merchants who set out on these voyages. This also confirms that the ships had a substantial cargo capacity. The jewelry found also aroused interest. Some pieces were crafted with incredible precision, including pendants, bracelets, and rings. Their style indicated the influence of multiple cultures. Motifs typical of the northern coasts were found alongside elements associated with southern regions. This confirmed that the Phoenicians were intermediaries between cultures. They didn't simply transport goods, they connected different worlds. The main mystery was the purpose of one of the ships. Its shape was different from that of merchant vessels. It was narrow, long, and had additional beams to strengthen the hull. Such designs are typical of warships. It is possible that this ship was used to protect trade routes. This suggests that the Phoenicians were building a fleet that included not only merchant vessels, but also warships. These could have escorted caravans, protecting them from threats. The inscriptions on some objects attracted particular attention. Some were made using symbols reminiscent of ancient forms of writing. They contained short inscriptions, possibly names or symbols. This suggests that the Phoenicians marked their goods. The inscriptions help distinguish cargo, identify its origin or ownership. Such markings indicate a developed trading culture. One of the mysteries is the cause of the ship's sinking. Some vessels lie in calm waters, suggesting they sank due to storms or damage. Another ship showed signs of having struck underwater rocks. It's possible the vessel lost course during bad weather. Another theory is that the ships may have fallen victim to pirates. Sea routes were dangerous at the time, and attacks were not uncommon. However, few direct traces of battles have been found. Data on the routes is particularly significant. Some ships were found to contain items typical of eastern cities, while others contain goods from western regions. This suggests that the Phoenicians sailed long distances, connecting different parts of the sea. They actively participated in trade and brought goods to cities far removed from one another. This confirms the picture of ancient maritime exchange, which was much more extensive than previously thought. Furthermore, the finds demonstrate that the Phoenicians possessed a profound knowledge of the sea. They built ships taking into account the characteristics of waves and winds. Their vessels had a well-designed shape that allowed them to travel long distances. Signs of repairs have been found on some hull parts, suggesting that sailors could repair their vessels while at sea. This skill was vital. Phoenician ships have become a symbol of ancient maritime trade. Their finds provide insight into how people traversed the seas, transported goods, and established connections between cultures. This discovery not only expands our knowledge of trade, but also demonstrates a high level of craftsmanship. The ships, which lay underwater for hundreds of years, bear witness to an era when the sea was the primary route. Their preservation allows us to reconstruct a picture of the past. Today, archaeologists continue to study Phoenician ships. New methods allow them to examine the remains without damaging them. Each new discovery adds new information, allowing us to imagine life at sea. And while much remains a mystery, one thing is clear. The Phoenicians were masters of their craft. Their ships, goods, and connections created a network that connected different corners of the world. Bagan stone discs. Hidden among forests and steep slopes in the remote mountains of China, a valley lay hidden for a long time, almost unknown. Local tales spoke of strange stones that resonated underfoot and were arranged in circles. Everything changed when archaeologists began their exploration and stumbled upon a discovery that turned out to be one of the most mysterious in the region. Dozens of perfectly round discs with small holes in the center lay on the ground. These stone discs, dubbed the bygone, became the subject of study, debate, and speculation. Each disc is crafted with remarkable precision. Their diameters vary, but their shape is always perfect. A hole in the center indicates that the discs could rotate or be fixed in place. Some researchers suggest that the discs were used for ritual purposes. Their shape resembles solar symbols. They may have served as part of rituals related to the calendar or the changing of the seasons. Such a purpose would be logical if the discs were associated with the observation of celestial phenomena. But there are other peculiarities too. Some discs bear signs of processing, suggesting the use of tools. Lines resembling grooves are found on the surface. They are arranged as if to convey movement. These lines give the discs the appearance of mechanical elements. This raises the question, could the stone discs have been part of a more complex structure, Perhaps they served as components of ancient mechanisms or tools for processing materials. It is believed that the discs were used as musical instruments. When struck, they produce a sound. Different discs produce different sounds, suggesting the possibility of creating musical compositions. This function could have been part of rituals. Sound plays an important role in spiritual practices, and vibrations could have been used to achieve special states. If the discs were musical instruments, this makes them part of a larger cultural tradition. Some researchers believe the discs were used to store information. According to this theory, the lines and grooves are not random. They could have been symbols or a recording system. This method is common in some cultures, where carvings and patterns serve as a means of transmitting knowledge. If the Bagon discs were used in this way, they could have contained information about rituals, history, or celestial phenomena. However, for now, these hypotheses remain speculative. The find locations pose a particular mystery. The discs were discovered in sites associated with ancient settlements. Some lie near ancient burials. This suggests that the discs may have been used in funerary rites. They may have served as symbols of protection or transition to the next world. Their round shape could have represented the cycle of life. Various objects in burials often have symbolic meaning, and the discs could have been associated with the ritual aspect of ancient life. There's also a more pragmatic theory. It suggests the discs may have been part of the infrastructure. Some discs show signs of wear, indicating mechanical friction. This suggests that the discs served as supports or transport elements. They were possibly used to move heavy objects. This function requires a large number of discs, which could be positioned under a heavy load, reducing friction. However, archaeologists have found no clear indication that the Bagon discs were used exclusively for technical purposes. Their shape and arrangement more closely suggest a ritual or symbolic purpose. The circle as a shape is often used in cultural practices. It can signify unity, infinity, or a connection between worlds. These meanings are appropriate for places where rituals were performed or the forces of nature were worshipped. An important part of the research was studying the stone from which the discs were made. It is a durable material that requires considerable effort to work. The people who created the discs possessed the skills to shape the stone without breaking it. This indicates a high level of craftsmanship. Creating a large number of identical discs is a complex process that requires coordination and technological know-how. There are several theories regarding the origin of the discs. Some scholars believe they were created by people living in the region long before the advent of written history. Another theory suggests that the discs may have been part of cultural exchanges between different peoples. For example, they may have been used as symbols of exchange. However, these theories have not yet been confirmed. The Bagon discs have become a mystery because they don't fit into conventional patterns. They are too precise to be simple ritual objects, but too symbolic to be technical tools. They are found in sites associated with settlements, but their purpose cannot be precisely determined. It's possible the discs served multiple functions simultaneously. For example, they could have served as both symbols and tools. Today, the discs continue to be studied using new technologies. Researchers analyze their shape, structure, and processing marks. But despite all efforts, their exact purpose remains unknown. The Bagon discs remain evidence of a culture that vanished, leaving behind mysteries. They remind us that ancient people created objects that could serve multiple purposes, and these discs reflect a part of a world we are only beginning to understand. Cave temples of Ellora. Hidden among basalt cliffs and turbulent winds on the Deccan Plateau lies one of the world's most impressive architectural complexes, the Ellora Cave Temples. At first glance, these structures resemble ordinary rock-cut chambers, but upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that we are confronted by a gigantic complex crafted with incredible skill. Ellora comprises over 30 temples, carved entirely by hand from a single rock face, and each one amazes not only by its size, but also by the complexity of its design. The most famous is the temple named after a powerful deity. It was built from the top down, a rarity. First, the craftsman removed a layer of stone from the top, then carved out the interior spaces. This method requires incredible precision. A mistake could have led to the collapse of the entire structure, but the builders possessed the knowledge that allowed them to work in the rock with confidence. They created columns, statues, and friezes, maintaining proportions and preserving the overall concept. The Ellora Caves represent several cultural traditions. There are temples dedicated to various religions, demonstrating that the region was a cultural crossroads. Despite their differences, all the temples were carved with meticulous care. Every detail, from the entrance portals to the interior halls, testifies to a high level of craftsmanship. The interiors are decorated with reliefs depicting legends, scenes from everyday life, and spiritual symbols. Some temples consist of several levels. The entrance leads into the main hall, from which corridors lead to other rooms. Inside, there are columns supporting the ceiling. In some places, the columns look as if they were moved from another structure and placed here. But this is an illusion. Each column is carved from the same rock as the walls. This creates the impression that the craftsmen literally created the temple from a single block of stone. The ceiling reliefs are particularly striking. They depict the heavens, flowers, animals, and mythical figures. Some reliefs are so detailed that they seem to be made of soft material rather than hard rock. Such images required skill and artistic vision. The craftsmen didn't simply carve stone. They conveyed meaning and symbolism within it. The lighting system also plays a significant role. Despite the temples being carved into rock, light penetrates the interiors thanks to a well-thought-out layout. The builders created openings through which light fell where it was needed, illuminating the statues, altars, and reliefs. This demonstrates the master's understanding of how to utilize natural light. This combination of architecture and lighting creates the impression that the temples come alive at specific times. The construction technique remains a mystery. Basalt is a hard stone, and working it requires tools and skill. The craftsmen use simple tools, but their results are comparable to modern methods. They created precise lines, precise angles, and smooth surfaces. This speaks to a long tradition of craftsmanship, passed down from generation to generation. Perhaps the craftsmen possess knowledge that is now partially lost. Some researchers suggest that the complex's construction required thousands of people and many years of work. However, there is no precise data. Dating is complicated by the fact that each temple could have been built at different times. Some rooms were created later, after the main halls already existed. This suggests that Ellora was a living complex that developed gradually. Symbolism is also intriguing. Each temple has a unique structure. The layout and arrangement of the halls are linked to spiritual beliefs. In some temples, the entrance symbolizes a transition. Inner corridors lead to the hall containing the main object of worship. This structure reflects the spiritual journey of visitors. This makes temples more than just architecture, but spaces imbued with meaning. Some caves bear traces of paint, suggesting that the interiors were decorated not only with carvings, but also with color. Remaining fragments show that the walls were vibrantly colored. Red, yellow, and blue hues were used to create depth. This combination of color and form created a space that amazed visitors. Of particular interest is the temple dedicated to the deity standing on a high pedestal. Its figure is carved with such finesse that it seems lifelike. The face, clothing, and posture convey character and power. This temple is considered a masterpiece. It demonstrates the high level of craftsmanship. The artisans worked not only with form, but also with expression. Ellora is a complex that unites architecture, art, and spirituality. Its temples demonstrate that people of the past were capable of creating complex structures, using knowledge and skills that are difficult to imagine today. They worked in solid stone, creating a space where every detail matters. Their work has survived the centuries, and the temples continue to amaze with their beauty. Today, the Ellora complex is visited by researchers. New methods allow them to study the structures without damaging them. They analyze tool marks, the layout, and the materials. Each new study adds a new fragment, but much remains a mystery. How did the artisans plan their work? What tools did they use? And how did they create such harmonious forms? Ellora remains a testament to the human desire to express spirituality through architecture. Its temples are carved from stone, yet they convey feelings, ideas, and faith. This makes the complex more than just a monument to the past, but a living story about the people who lived here, created, and left their mark. Their world is hidden within the basalt chambers, where silence preserves the history carved into the depths of the rock. Dilmun civilization. Hidden among the hot winds of the Persian Gulf, where islands appear as sun-baked spots amidst the mirror-like waters, lay a civilization that ancient peoples called a place of purity, paradise, and immortality. Dilmun is a mysterious culture that left traces of trade, stone fortifications, and mystical legends. For a long time, it was known only from Sumerian texts, which mentioned Dilmun as a highly developed country, but there was almost no archaeological evidence. Everything changed when researchers began excavations and discovered traces of a vast network of settlements hidden beneath sand and rock. The first finds appeared on one of the islands. Instead of expecting to find small settlements, archaeologists discovered the remains of massive walls and houses built from large stone blocks. These structures differed from other architectural traditions in the region. The building angles were precise, the walls were strong, and the layout indicated a well-thought-out system. This indicated that the inhabitants of Dilmun possessed knowledge of construction and were capable of constructing cities designed to last. Finds related to trade attracted particular attention. Traces of ancient harbors were discovered on the shores. They were designed to protect ships from waves and wind, indicating the importance of maritime trade. Sumerian texts mention that Dilmun served as a link between different cultures. Amphorae containing traces of oils, metals, and incense were found at the excavation site. These items indicate trade with distant regions. People transported goods across the sea, creating a network of exchange. An equally important find were the seals. They are crafted with remarkable precision, depicting scenes from everyday life, animal symbols, and mysterious signs. Each seal served to denote ownership or confirm a transaction. This suggests a sophisticated administrative system. The seals could have been used by merchants or officials overseeing trade. Their precision demonstrates that the inhabitants of Dilmun mastered the art of stone carving and had knowledge of documenting transactions. The burials pose a huge mystery. Some islands are filled with kurgans, circular burial structures, of which there are thousands. Each kurgan contains a stone chamber where the remains were found. Vessels, jewelry, and household items were found nearby. This suggests that the inhabitants of Dilmun had complex rituals. They cared for the dead, providing them with items they believed they might need in the next world. The unusually sized burial mounds attracted particular attention. They were larger than the others and constructed from several layers of stone. Such burials could have belonged to people of high status. Jewelry made of metals not found in the region was found inside, confirming trade links. The people of Dilmun were part of a large exchange network, obtaining rare materials through sea routes. Another mystery concerns the water supply system. Underground canals were found beneath the cities. They channeled water from springs to specific locations, indicating sophisticated engineering. The canals were lined with stone to prevent the water from seeping into the sand. This system allowed residents to grow crops and sustain life in the arid climate. This suggests an understanding of the laws of water and the ability to control it. But one of the greatest mysteries is the mythological significance of Dilmun. Ancient texts describe this land as a place of purity. Disease and old age were unknown there. People believed Dilmun to be a special place where land and sea merged. Perhaps this was due to the region's natural environment. Pure water, springs, and fertile land amidst the deserts could seem miraculous. This impression left its mark on the imaginations of those who described Dilmun as an ideal. Archaeologists also found traces of temples. Some buildings were distinctive in their shape. They contained altars, ritual vessels, and meeting places. This suggests a developed spiritual life. People worshipped gods associated with water and earth. Such traditions are common in regions where water is crucial. Temples served as places where people made offerings, performed ceremonies, and sought protection. The question remains, where did the civilization disappear to? Possible causes include climate change, the drying up of springs, or changes in trade routes. If water became unavailable, residents may have abandoned their cities. Another theory suggests that trade routes shifted. If Dilmun lost its role as a communications hub, its population may have migrated to more prosperous regions. However, there is no definitive data. New research shows that the cities of Dilmun were interconnected. This suggests a strong organization. Communities work together, building canals, temples, and harbors. Such a structure requires management and knowledge. The people of Dilmun understood how to exploit nature to create sustainable settlements. Today, archaeologists continue to explore Dilmun. New finds reveal details of their lives. Metals, seals, and jewelry all tell the story of a people who built their cities at the crossroads of sea routes. But much remains unknown. Who were these people? How did they manage their cities? And why did their culture disappear? The Dilmun civilization remains part of the mystery of the ancient world. It demonstrates that great cultures, whose histories remain unexplained, could have emerged at this crossroads. And each new layer of Earth reveals fragments of this vanished world. Beneath the Earth, beneath the sea, and in the depths of forgotten deserts, worlds whose existence no one suspected continue to unfold. Each archaeological discovery becomes more than just a find, but a window into eras that have vanished without a trace. These cities, temples, and artifacts show that history is far from over. It awaits us to once again tap into its mysteries, to see the world as it truly was.